Hi there again from the Hermitage in Johannesburg as we come to reflect on the fourth Sunday in Lent. One single sip of God's mercy and our lives change forever. But it is also possible to forsake God's mercy. We can block this mercy, refusing the gift of love, the gift of the Holy Spirit. The Pharisees considered themselves chosen and set apart, righteous in God's eyes, because of their observance of the law and the traditions of the fathers. They did not consider God's mercy necessary in their lives. This fellow here, this man Jesus, he welcomes sinners and eats with them, at one table sharing food. The Pharisees are horrified and disgusted. The rabbinic regulations of the Pharisees forbade them from eating with sinners. According to them, sinners were those who did not adhere to the law of Moses, nor the additional Pharisaic rules and regulations. Sinners included those who lived immoral lifestyles, as well as the Jewish tax collectors. For a Pharisee, eating with a sinner or tax collector was to defile oneself. For the Pharisee, righteousness came through ritual purity and separation from sinners. This is why the Pharisees are horrified and disgusted by the actions of this man Jesus. But the Pharisees are also hypocrites, in love with dress codes and pious exterior devotions and ceremony, but their hearts are devoid of kindness. John the Baptist pointed out their hypocrisy on the banks of the Jordan River. In truth, Pharisees found it impossible to fulfill the requirements of the law, or to bridge the gap between justice and mercy. So do we. Today, Jesus gives to the Pharisees and to us the well-known story of the Prodigal Son. This is a story of God's grace and mercy. There are three characters in the story: the ungrateful child, who cannot wait to go it alone, the sneering and resentful elder brother, and the father, the parent who forgives, even when not asked. The prodigal son represents all humanity, for all have sinned and need God's forgiveness. At another level, it represents each one of us, who have received a great inheritance, graces and gifts, but we've also wasted them on things that we thought would make us happy, would make us famous and popular, but the emptiness remained. At the end of the parable, the father claims, "We had to celebrate and rejoice. This brother of yours was dead and has come back to life." These are the same words used to describe the resurrection of Jesus, the one who died and has come back to life. Jesus, who laid his life, death, and resurrection, has won for us forgiveness, a new heritage as heirs, and a place at the banquet, at the celebration. This is God's mercy at work, and has nothing to do with our own righteousness, purity, or ritual observances. There are many indeed who find God's mercy difficult to grasp. The juxtaposition between mercy and justice seems to tear apart the demands of justice with the impossible largesse of the grace of mercy of God. With the exclusion of compassion and mercy, the Pharisees placed a heavy burden of law upon the shoulders of the people. The Pharisees were self-righteous hypocrites, and Jesus constantly pointed out their lack of compassion and mercy. Through the many centuries, we as Church have slowly but inexorably forgotten the admonitions of Jesus, and lent more and more upon law and the demands of justice, as we came to interpret these in our many doctrines and dogmas, just as the Pharisees did. Pope Francis continually reminds us of the weakness of our mercy muscles. Many today are also horrified and disgusted by the Pope's movement towards compassion and mercy. just as the Pharisees were in their own time. As Jesus did, so too we are called as disciples of this fellow, of this man, the Son of God, to call out all injustice and hypocrisy in an imperial, hierarchical and paternalistic system that places heavy burdens of the law upon the people. As the Pharisees before them, these are the people who demand adherence to a moral code and all those rules and regulation that they deem righteous. But the great opportunity has arisen in the life of our Church, as we now must acknowledge that the emperor wears no clothes. The priests of today, as the Pharisees of their time, are granted exemption from the strict adherence of these moral codes, rules and regulations. God's grace and mercy theologically act beyond the limitations and indiscretions of these priests' actions. There is nothing that may inhibit the priest to reenact in our most holy ceremony in the acts of the Mass. The Mass is always valid outside the priest's worthiness. But this same largesse is not passed on to our brothers and sisters, those we consider immoral sinners. These we exclude from God's mercy in the table of the Lord. But let us not account our priests alone for this hypocrisy. We too, as Church, vilify and exclude those we consider immoral. In the light of our times and the life of the Church, this is a good opportunity for an examination of conscience. Do we perhaps in the depths of our heart also consider ourselves justified, believing that we are in credit with God? Perhaps we have come to believe that those who do not pay the entrance to paradise must be thrown out. What is our own attitude towards sinners and the outcasts of our day, the unmarried mother, the divorced, the homeless, homosexuals, foreigners, those with AIDS? Let us test our responses to that of a Creator of us all, who welcomes back sinners, even when they do not ask. Each one of us needs to take a very good look at our responses to this examination of conscience. Jesus has warned that the same standard with which we judge will be the standard by which we ourselves are judged. Lord, if you should mark our iniquity, who would survive? May the Lord grant you peace.